have here are two extreme takes on off-roading. The new Hummer EV and whatever that thing is that Kyle has.
This is the Ineos Grenadier, and I think this is actually the superior off-road toy choice out of these two vehicles.
Yeah? Does it do 0 to 60 in 3 seconds? Can it crab walk?
No, it doesn't, but it also doesn't destroy the trails that we're going to be driving them on later today.
Trails can handle 9,000 pounds. So what we're going to do to try to see which one is better is we're going to do a quick overview of each vehicle and then take them on an off-road course to see how they actually handle where they're designed to be off-road. The Hummer EV comes with not one, not two, but up to 3 motors as seen here with the 3-time logo on the side of the vehicle. All that's good for up to 830 horsepower. It needs that because it is a big vehicle. It's a wide vehicle. Yeah, it's kind of heavy. But this vehicle has so many party tricks. Not only should it be good off-road, it can do all sorts of things. Like it can lift itself up for extract mode. It can do the crab walk where it goes sideways. The front hood opens electronically. The rear tailgate opens electronically. It's just a marvel of what you can do if you just go all out with an off-roading EV. This isn't an EV in the traditional sense. Sure, it can go up to 314 miles, but it's not designed to maximize efficiency mileage. It's more of a technological marvel of what GMC's engineers can do when let loose. It's designed to show just how crazy capable off-road an EV can be if you just don't have any limitations. I mean, after all, it's kind of what the Hummer's always been, so it's suitable that that's what this is called.
All right, I know what you're thinking. That's not a new vehicle. And I get it. Compared to the fancy pants, all-electric new Hummer, yeah, this certainly doesn't look new. But unlike the Hummer, which is a modernized version of a design that we're all pretty familiar with, this is a very loyal, faithful take on a vehicle that Brits are all familiar with, the original Land Rover Defender. Now that thing hasn't been sold in North America in 25-ish years, but it went out of production a few years ago in the rest of the world, and people were sad. So much so, in fact, that a certain company decided they needed to remake it. So yes, outside, doesn't look very new. Underneath the skin, though, this is a whole new, ground-up, body-on-frame platform. So you end up with this delightfully boxy look. You have the wheels pushed to all 4 corners to maximize approach and departure angles. You have wicked cool steel wheels, which the Hummer does not have. You also end up with, well, the most British of terms. This is the station wagon. It's the base model of the Grenadier, but there are a few other models that we will probably be off-roading a little bit later today.
The Hummer also has a lot of flash to back up all of its performance. Anyone who's an introvert probably won't want this vehicle, especially in orange. It just screams Hummer literally across the front. It has the big chunky spare tire on the back. It has another Hummer logo back there. Big chunky off-road tires on the side. This tells the world,
I am a big, powerful off-roader.
There are no half measures underneath the skin of the Grenadier as well. We're talking solid beam axles at both ends, which results in almost 2 feet of suspension travel, and you've got around a foot of ground clearance just out of the box. Now there is a 2-speed transfer case, and that hooks up to an 8-speed BMW automatic transmission because, yeah, this is running one of the best, very modern inline-6 engines on the market. It's BMW's 3-liter turbo, and you're looking at, well, substantially less horsepower than in the Hummer EV. Around 280 horsepower and a little over 320 pound-feet of torque.
So just look at these tires. They are so big, they're massive. And the wheels inside aren't that big, but that provides all that sidewall for better off-road capabilities. The air suspension is housed back here. You can see it's very large and robust. Down here you have the GMC logo, the huge tow points in case you get stuck or in case you're helping someone else that is stuck. Down the side, it still has that typical Hummer look to it. And then in the back, again, it's got that typical Hummer look with the big spare tire. Maybe a cool feature that isn't discussed much is it has the marker lights both on the rear roof and the front roof, which gives it more of that big truck feel. Honestly though, for how big the vehicle is and how much of a big deal people make about its size and weight, it doesn't look that big in person. Maybe it's just because pickup trucks have gotten so overly large, we're used to it. But this just seems wide, not huge.
The great thing about this classic styling is, well, if it ain't broke, this looks cool, and it doesn't look like it's trying so hard like a certain bright orange 9,000-pound SUV.
So in grand Hummer tradition, the driver sits way up front in the corner here, while the front passenger sits 3 seats over in another area code way over there. In the rear, there's enough space for 2 full-size adults, 3 in a pinch, and when it comes to cargo, there's a huge edge here. Not only do I have the big cargo hold, I also have a front trunk for more gear. The big front screen here, this is where the magic happens. This is where you can unlock so many of the Hummer's different modes and capabilities. It takes a while to learn them all. I'm not even close to learning them, but I figure over time, if you own this vehicle, you start to see what it can do. So speaking of which, I think it's time to get this off-road. Let me just open my pillarless door. Man, do I love pillarless doors.
Okay, so we are now off-roading the Grenadier, and this is a slightly different trim than the one that you saw in our intro, but the basics are still the same. And so right now this is making super easy, short work of this. We're just in 4 low, just wandering around. This recirculating ball steering does have a lot of turns lock to lock. And just keep winding the steering wheel thinking, okay, it's straight now. Wait, no. Okay, wait, it's straight now. No. So on the road, it feels pretty imprecise. But here on a trail where you want to be able to make small adjustments, it actually helps. It comes into its own.
Now, those who don't off-road regularly, probably more important than even the driver is a spotter, especially when you get into some gnarly trails like this. So we luckily have spotters set up at all the more difficult sections, and they'll help guide and direct where the vehicle should go to make sure we clear the obstacles, don't hit trees, don't hit jagged rocks. And as long as we continue on the path, this Hummer should easily be able to navigate everything. So far, so good. So right now we're just on some slick mud. Nothing too bad, nothing this car can't handle. Nothing this electric SUV can't handle. All right, just going over some muddy ruts and rocks. So far, nothing has been a problem for this. We haven't got to the real big obstacles yet. The only thing is it's so greasy out here. Even with 4-wheel steer, this thing's having trouble keeping its lateral grip when turning, but it's not losing traction in the sense of accelerating or braking. Man, is it slippery out here.
So as I said before, we are in 4 low currently, which is a nice physical choice down right by the gear selector. It's not just a button that you press in your fancy EV. I appreciate that. And then of course, if I want to switch any of my lockers on, they're up here along with 8,000 other switches up on the roof. The really nice thing about the Grenadier is that it's not as wide as a small condo building, so it's pretty easy to thread between all of these trees. See, like, look, going through here, I have maybe 1.5 feet on either side. I don't even know how Mike did that with the Hummer.
So crazy having the rear steer and how tight this thing can turn and how quickly the back can straighten back out if it gets a little out of sorts through some of the greasier corners. It's a big plus, especially for something that has the width of this. Look at this tight turn again. Most pickup trucks would be 3-point turning that, not this thing. Yeah, this muddy, rocky, rutted path so far is no match for this thing.
So we are now going to go over some whoops.
Just some whoops.
Lean my side first, go nice and slow, make sure the Grenadier is balanced.
And back. And back. Jeez, it was like there wasn't even there. I've been in vehicles through there that felt like you're gonna tip over from front corner, rear corner, back and forth. This, it was like going over maybe a speed bump.
Easy peasy. This thing has something like nearly 2 feet of suspension travel, and I'm almost getting stuck on the whoop. No, it's fine, it's fine. We're good.
So here comes another one of these steep hills. This one has just been mangled from these vehicles throughout the day. But again, I bet you this is gonna have zero problem climbing up. Minimum wheel spin. And we're up, and now we're gonna go back down.
All right, now we're just taking a steep descent down into what is being called Splash Mountain. Do I splash? I splash. Small splash. Little splash. Baby splash. Yeah.
Ooh, here's a big mud bog. Get squishy in this one. Now we're going down a bit of a mud hole again. Go way down. And then climb back up the other side. Just no problem. I'm not even using probably 3% of the throttle. This thing just pulls up. I mean, when you have over 800 horsepower, I can see why. So there's one thing I'll admit Kyle's right about, and that's the interior. I said all the parts you touch are black, so you're fine. But you need your window open when off-roading to help with your spotters, and yeah, the white cloth here is covered in mud. Maybe it washes off for easy, but maybe go for a different color interior if you do plan to regularly off-road the Hummer.
How I think of it is, the Hummer is like a modern EV supercar. It's super effective at what it does, but a little one-dimensional. You want something like a Grenadier because it's the Miata of off-roading. It's pretty basic and you get to enjoy it and feel connected. Oop.
But I'm really
Oh.
yeah, that never happened. As I said earlier, this thing is in extract mode, which has it jacked so far in the air. It's almost comical how high it sits. But the ground clearance and the maneuverability it gives you is awesome. There's things here that I would question in a lot of vehicles that I can straddle over, but this is not even a worry. I just know I'm gonna go right up and over it. One of these rocks like they're nothing. All right, thanks. No problem. And for all the jokes that I've made, and several people have made, some not even in good humor, about the weight of this vehicle, you don't feel it out here. It's just bobbing over obstacles like any Jeep, Bronco, G-Wagon. Doesn't feel any different. It's just doing it completely silent, which is kind of cool. You can really hear what the tires and brakes and mud are doing when some of their vehicles are just overdone by the sounds of the engine.
I really like that driving the Grenadier is like a blast from the past in more ways than one. I mean, it feels like a 1970s British off-roader, but also you have a shifter from the new but old Supra with the older BMW setup. You have a mini steering wheel. Yeah, it's just a hodgepodge that really works.
So this has been doing this course all day, nonstop, and it's mid-afternoon now, and the battery is still, I'd say over 90% full. So the worry that this thing's gonna get stranded off-road it's not really valid unless you're overlanding hundreds of miles in no man's land. But most people go into an off-road park or an off-road trail and come back in a couple hours. And this thing could go all day at this rate, and probably the next day and the next day. But it's still kind of an off-road toy. I don't foresee these being used too much as daily drivers. And I also don't foresee them as being used exclusively for bush vehicles, but I think it's for someone who just wants a little bit of both and something I can tow, and just something that's impressive and sort of futuristic.